We'll be starting in about 2 minutes, waiting for all the live audience to join us from the branches across the country. So this is KG India Town Hall. So all the KG employees will be joining. And I hope all of you are excited to hear from Rob today. The floor is mainly for him. And we will be hearing from him about how Schindler Group is doing briefly, but more about how AP is doing and what are the priorities for us. I think it's been a while since we had the joint town hall. We do it every quarter now. And whilst the focus today will be on his expectations, we will be following up with again an India one, most likely end of next month or beginning of Q3. But yeah, it's going to be a very short one, but we will also have time for questions. So if you do have any questions, keep them ready and we'll open up for the audience questions. Yeah, we can go live. Okay. Namaste, good morning, Vanakkam, Sat Sri Akal. All of you joining us today for the town hall with Rob and the team. Welcome for this special session, I would say. Before we start, I wanted to mention that we have in the head office in Mumbai, a few of our colleagues, many of them were my friends as well. So we have, of course, we have Rob here with us. Along with Rob, we have David McLaughlin, who is the CFO for Asia Pacific. We have Aya and we have Roy, both from FQE team, from AP region, and Vidhi as well, our own Vidhi. So you will be hearing mainly from Rob today. And I'm very excited that we are meeting at much better times. And Rob will talk about that. Once he finishes, I will come back. Rob के सेशन के बाद मैं वापस आऊँगा आप सबसे बात करने के लिए to summarize what are his expectations, ताकि हम सब लोग एक ही objective के target पे जा सकते हैं and we can achieve what we want to be a fabulous Q2. So without much ado and without wasting any more time, I'd like to welcome Rob to this session. Thank you, Rob.
Good morning, everybody. It's, as always, a great pleasure to be back here in India, particularly in the head office in Mumbai, to be able to communicate to you all a little bit about what's happening at the group. If you probably remember last time we presented from a strategy perspective, from the group perspective, it wasn't very clear about what was happening in the organisation. So over the last 6 to 8 months, a lot of time and effort has been spent trying to make sure that that strategy is clear. So maybe just a bit of a poll here. How many have actually seen the group strategy? Can you put your hand up if you've seen it? Okay. So a few people, so still a little bit of work on communication to make sure that that's clear to everybody. Because I think it's very important as organisations that we align the entire organisation. And when the entire organisation is aligned, then it becomes very powerful when we're all heading in the one direction. So I'll spend a little bit of time discussing the group strategy today. The good thing to know, though, is that the Indian strategy here is also very closely aligned with what we're trying to do from a group perspective, but I think it's important to understand that. I want to talk about a couple of other topics today, as Ash mentioned. So we'll talk a little bit about safety, and we've had some really interesting insights recently about safety performance and safety reporting, and I want to share some of that with you today. Then we'll go through some of the results for Asia Pacific, how we're travelling, both from an order intake perspective and a profitability perspective and what's happening on portfolio, before we touch on some of the items that we think are important for us to deliver here in India. And then, as Ash said, we'll close with a Q&A. So let's first start with strategy. If I can get the clicker to work. Before we get onto that, so 25 years this year, so I think this is a fantastic thing to recognise within Schindler India. I was here for the 20th celebration 5 years ago, and so now is the 25th celebration. I think we've got some events planned both in Mumbai and Delhi later in the year. Silvio is very excited to be coming back here to share in this celebration because, you know, he had played a huge part in building the Indian business today. So on your 25 years, congratulations, and we look forward to celebrating with you later in the year. So the group strategy, it starts with our purpose. And the purpose that we defined at the group level was actually that we actually play a big part in society. People use elevators and escalators all the days to get up and down buildings through infrastructure projects. And so we play that part, and we have an opportunity to enhance people's quality of life, right? Because if you can travel safely with escalators and elevators and you make that journey in a good way, then we can actually work on, as I say, enhancing the quality of life in our urban environments. So we want to do this and have the best mobility solutions across the buildings that are our markets today. So that's our purpose, enhancing the quality of life in urban environments by providing the best mobility solutions across the buildings. So this is what we strive to do. Then we talked about our ambition. Now that's very small print, so you won't be able to read that, but we have 4 key ambitions. The first is to make sure that we're the elevator and escalator choice for our customers. This is the first thing. So when people think about a provider in our industry, they think about Schindler first of all. So this is our first ambition. The second one is to make sure we create customer value and a unique customer experience. So when people use our products or they interact with Schindler, they really perceive that they get something different, right? And we can actually provide that unique experience for them, and we create value for them. This is quite an interesting discussion, particularly in the new installation side of the business. How do we create a value proposition that our customers are willing to buy and maybe pay a little bit more for because we can create that value for them as a customer? The third ambition is really about then not only being the customer's choice, but we want to be the employee's choice. People want to work for Schindler because we're a great company to work for. I think the good thing that we see here in India, you have a really good reputation as being a great organisation to work for, and we want to continue to enhance this as the years go on. So it's about being the employee choice as well. And the fourth element is really about making sure we continue to create shareholder value. So how do we do that? First is making sure that we grow our portfolio. Right, that's the wealth of an elevator organisation, is the portfolio that we maintain. So we want to continue to grow that portfolio. We do that by being successful in NI and helping us grow organically. We do it by making sure we don't lose units off the portfolio, so restricting portfolio losses is also incredibly important. So these are the key things that help us make sure that we create value for the organisation. And finally, that we also have to be profitable as a business. So 2022 was quite a challenging year as we had all the issues with supply chain and inflation running through the business. We're now starting to see some of these things subside. We have the inflationary impacts basically under control now, and supply chain issues are gradually unwinding, and we're getting more reliable deliveries out of our factory. So all these things help us to be more profitable. The next element is about our choices. So what are the things? Strategy is about choices. Choices about what you choose to do, and importantly, what you choose not to do. Right? So when we come to the service business, what we're trying to do is drive density in our portfolio. Does anyone know why it's important to have density in your maintenance portfolio? Does anyone want to offer a reason why this is important? Yes? Efficiency. Exactly. So if you can cut down the travel time between units, you become more efficient as an organisation. So you'd be surprised how much time our technicians or customers engineers spend travelling from job to job. If you have good density, then you reduce that amount of time, we become more efficient as a business. So thank you. It's also about ramping up our digital services. We really want to push connectivity. You're doing an excellent job here in India. I think there's something like 27,000 units connected, if I remember rightly. We do have some challenges with non-calling modules, as we'd all recognise, but the group is working with us on these topics to try and sort out software issues that we have, and we know just generally connectivity here in India is a bit of a challenge. But this is important that we continue to drive this. And you also have your freemium model here where we're putting in the display screens in the lift cars. Has also been a very successful push into with our customers. Something like almost 2,500 screens we'll have installed soon. We just have to continue to work on the revenue model of this so it starts to generate some profitability for us. But we're making strong pushes on the digital services here in India. I just encourage you to keep pushing down that path. We want to foster simplification and modularity in our NI products, so trying to get to selling more standard products. And the only way we can do this successfully is to make sure we influence our customers right in the right way in the beginning. Then you can sell your standard products into those markets. And this helps us become more efficient right across the supply chain when we can sell more standardized products. We want to grow in segments where we get good margin in the NI business, right? And where we can get customer loyalty. So when we install a new installation, we can actually convert it onto maintenance at the end of that period. This is, as I said, goes back to creating that shareholder value. So making sure we sell into loyal segments makes sense, and making sure we sell into segments where we can make margin is also important. On the modernisation business, we also have to focus on profitable segments and segments where we can convert into our maintenance portfolio into the future. And again, you're doing a good job here. I can see the mod replacement business is really growing as the potential comes through for people to modernise their units, and it's important that we take advantage of this, but we take advantage by selling again to customers who will convert to us later on. And the fourth element is really about our focus on strategic markets. So what are the strategic markets? Well, you're one of them, right? India is a very important market for Schindler globally, and we have to make sure that we're a success in this market, as is China and as is the US at the moment for differing reasons. So China is going through a period of slowdown, and so the new installation market reduced something like 30% over the last 18 months. And this has a big impact on the business, so we have to make sure that we manage that situation well. And also in America, we've had some challenges in profitability. America is a huge market. It's about almost 25% of our total turnover comes from the US, and we have to make sure that we're profitable in that business if we want to improve the profitability overall. So America is also a key strategic market for us. So when we look at our targets, so we want to make sure that we're best in class for our customers. So this is making sure that our Net Promoter Score is really strong in the organisation. I know we've had a little bit of a reset here in India as we try and get more accurate data about how the customer views us. But at the end of the day, if you have good NPS scores, you can actually then make sure that your portfolio is protected on the EO business. And I've seen this many times in my career. When your Net Promoter Score goes down or your detractors go up, probably 12 to 18 months, you will start to have a lot of losses in your portfolio. So it's really important that we manage that metric, we service our customers in the right way. So the Net Promoter Score is very important for us. And likewise for our employees, that if people recognise that we're a good company to work for, we get less attrition, we become more successful in terms of stabilising the business and having a team that we know we can rely upon to deliver the results. The second target is about accelerate our portfolio value growth. So we talked about this issue around creating shareholder value and the portfolio. So it's making sure that we convert all our NI installations onto the portfolio, and also about making sure that we reduce the number of losses in our portfolio. As I'll show you a little bit later, this is a bit of a challenge at the moment here in India, and we have to continue to work on this. We'll talk about this a little bit later when we get to that slide. The next of the choices is really about driving our digital revenue. So we talked about the importance of connectivity. So one thing is to connect to units, but if we're not generating revenue, then it's maybe just works on the efficiency side. So we also need to generate some money out of that to make sure that it contributes to the profitability. I'm going to talk now a little bit about the priorities and what's important for the organisation. I'm not going to go through all of these, maybe just the ones that I think are particularly relevant here in India. The first one I want to talk about here is safety. And safety, both from an employee perspective and a product perspective are incredibly important, and it starts with a compliance culture. So we have a set of policies and rules that we need to follow to protect our passengers and protect our employees. And really just encourage you to make sure that this is an important topic in all your conversations, particularly when we're dealing at the branch level, the regional level, that we often talk about targets around profitability or completions or portfolio losses, all these topics which are important, but if we don't bring home the topic of safety to our employees in those conversations, then the topic gets lost and people risk losing focus. And I have to say, this is a challenge for us here in India. We've had now 2 yellow audits in a row. We have to make sure that we get a white audit. This will happen early next year, if I remember rightly. I think it's around March, Rodney. And so just encourage you to really keep this front of mind with everybody that you talk with, right? That we really have to drive that compliance culture around our employee safety processes and our product safety processes to make sure that we keep that people safe. We talked a little bit about the topic of front line is the bottom line, right? And why is this important? It's important because when your frontline teams are performing well, it just makes everybody else's job easier, right? If your employees are servicing their customers properly, if we're installing jobs on time, doing things to the right quality, we have enough resources, we have to spend a lot less time on rework. So really understanding this issue is important for us around the Schindler globe, that we really have to make sure we have the right level of resources. We make sure that we keep attrition at a low level so they're stabilised. We make sure that they're trained well, they know how to do things properly, and we make sure that they're motivated well so they feel encouraged and enthused to do a good job. And it makes a huge difference to the output of the organisation when you have a well-trained team that are delivering for the customers. So this is getting a lot of focus from the globe, and I've seen you've done some really good things here in India already. You're running some career fairs for some of your teams, really, and giving people some idea of what it means to have a career from Schindler, even from a technical perspective, or a customer engineer or a technician. And these things are really important for the organisation. So I encourage you to do more of this, because if the frontline performs, the whole company performs. Talk a little bit around products. So as you know, the F3 was not probably our greatest product launch, probably a little bit of an understatement, and you all felt quite a bit of pain here in India with the F3 products and the issues we've dealt with because of the complexity and the challenges it meant to the supply chain, and supply chain actually managed to help, still hoping to get deliveries to our customers on site. And we've been working on this program now for over 12 months now to get back to what we call a real commodity product, right? The 3300 and the 3100, we will call those real commodity products. But when we went to the ES1 platform, we created too much variability and complexity in the program, and it was difficult for us to manufacture. So we have to get back to that real commodity product. We're currently on ongoing discussions with India, what that looks like. We've completed the process in Europe, and so eventually you'll start to see this real commodity product come out towards the end of this year or early in 2024. And this will make supply chains' ability to deliver on time and at the right cost, it will make a huge difference to them. We actually saw that the cost of an ES1 versus where we thought it would be to where it finished up went up by about 30%. Right? Part of this was inflation, but part of this was also the complexity that we built into the supply chain. So we have to revert that. So getting back to a real commodity product is important. We also have to work on our escalator platforms and making sure that we're competitive here. And this is really relevant for India, right? Because we have an escalator factory. And it's really important that we keep that escalator factory occupied. If we don't, it will actually cost money. We'll have to take what's called an impairment because we're not utilising the factory to its full production capacity. So this means commercial escalators we need to sell, but also means we need to sell public transport escalators, right? Because we have a product line that we specifically made to deliver 9,700 products for India. So we have to work on making sure we get the cost right and we try and standardise the product. This will help, but we also need to drive the sales here in the business as well. want to talk a little bit about service, and we talked about this drive the portfolio connectivity. And there really is an opportunity to drive not only revenue out of it, but also a lot of efficiency. And some of the mature markets, and India has come a long way in this. I see you actually doing a lot of remote resets successfully out of your TOC here. So you have a very mature TOC. And then the next level is how do we manage symptoms, right? And how do we make sure we proactively prevent callbacks to drive up our MTBC? There are lots of things that we can leverage with a connected portfolio. So I encourage, as I said earlier, to make sure we keep pushing on this to make sure we actually get the efficiencies out of it. Talk a little bit about performance. And the issue that we talked about with dealing with inflation was that pricing plus efficiency gains has to be greater than inflation. And generally in 2022, we did a pretty good job, right? We were able to recover a lot of ground in pricing. I think India, you did a fantastic job. We looked at where we're selling margins in January 2022 compared to end of last year. It was probably about 5 percentage points better, right? So we're able to improve our margins as well as cope with the inflationary costs in our business, right? So we did an excellent job on managing price. And I think you all deserve some congratulations on that because I think that was an excellent result. Now, we did pay a little bit of price. We did pay a little bit of a price in volume, right? So we walked away from customers who were not prepared to pay the right price for us. And so our volume probably was quite flat in 2022 in a growing market. And so our opportunity now is to leverage the good work that we've done in price, not give that away, but now start to push volumes back in the business. This is what we want to do, and this is our organisational change. And this is, people say, well, you can't have both, Schindler, right? You can't have price and you can't have margin. Actually, you can, and our competitors show us that they can, right? So Otis, who works in exactly the same industry, very similar markets, are able to get out of their business almost 10 percentage points better NI profitability than Schindler, right? So some of this is cost, but also a lot of it's price, right? So you can get volume, you can get price, we just have to make sure we get the balance right. It's a challenge, I understand that, but we have to continue to work on this. I think most of you who've worked for Schindler would recognise that from a quality perspective, we still have a long way to improve, and you've probably felt a lot of pain in the FO organisation over the last 18 months with issues from the supply chain, issues with the ES1 introduction, generally a lot of DLFIs. These things keep nagging the business and we're not improving quickly enough, and this is something again that we really want to change as an organisation. And how do we do this? Well, we've got to get back to our quality management systems. This is the foundation of your quality outputs that we produce. So what we're doing, we're now working with corporate R&D, revisiting their quality management system. Not only is it functional, is it delivering what we do, are they measuring the right things? Do we have the right governance system? And now we're starting to work on supply chain. So I think this week we're working with KW here in India to look at their quality management system. And again, what we're trying to do is develop a BDP and roll that out all through all the supply chain entities in the Schindler Global family. And then the final piece is then about rolling out what's called the QS blueprint in the KGs. So this was developed in 2021 and 2022. So we developed what would be a best practice quality management system for the KGs. And what we have to know in the KGs, we have different levels of maturity in our quality management system. Some are very good, well followed, good disciplines, and others we're very immature and we don't have good discipline. So we're trying to get to that one level, or one standard of quality management system in the KGs. So this is a program that we'll start rolling out towards the end of this year and into 2024. And once we get to that good quality management system, that creates the foundation. Then having a good quality management system doesn't solve everything, right? So to actually then deliver quality, you have to have a compliance culture within your business. So if you have a quality management system, you have to follow it, right? It's there for a reason. The reason you have a quality management system is to deliver consistently for your customers. But we see that compliance sometimes is optionalist, is an option for many people in the Schindler world. And we want to stop this, right? We want to get people to comply in the first place. And if we do this, we'll get much better outcomes. We'll have much less rework, much less DLFIs, much happier customers, much happier employees, because things actually work the way that they are designed. And this is what we want to achieve. It's going to take a change of culture in this company to do that. And I've often described Schindler as, we're a fantastic company of problem solvers. But that's not the company we want to be. We want to be a fantastic company of problem preventers, right? Stop issues coming through in the first place. So if you work with us on the quality management system, I know Ash and the team are really pushing the QMS and compliance here in India. Please, if you can play your part, right? We have a process, it's there for a reason, follow it. If you think it can be improved, then you make a suggestion to improvement, right? And you do it in a proper way. You just don't do it in a different way. You make recommendations to improve the process where you see those opportunities. So quality is a big ticket item for us. And the final one on performance is really about supply chain effectiveness. And this is all linked back to our products. Right? We also had some challenges with competencies in some of our supply chains. We had a lot of high attrition in Europe, even in India. We had high attrition at the end of 2021, in early 2022. And we need that stable workforce, again, following good systems and product that we can actually manufacture in a way that suits our factories. We can start to improve effectiveness. That means delivering on time and lowering cost. The final element is around the planet. So as you know, Schindler will, I think, about the 18th company globally to commit to science-based targets and to get to net zero carbon by 2040. So we've set ourselves some very ambitious goals because we want to seem to be a leader when it comes to the planet and behaving as a sustainable organisation. And you should use this. You should use this as a way to differentiate ourselves from our customers. But it doesn't happen on its own. It takes effort, right? So the things that we're doing around our fleet, so trying to move to electric vehicles, the things about how we supply our buildings with power, so trying to take it from renewable sources. How do we deal with waste? Does it go to landfill? Do we get rid of it in a sustainable way? These things are important for the organisation and are getting a lot of focus. And then a couple of other things on the planet. So it's about green products and services. So you may not know, but today in Germany, we have a TÜV certified green maintenance option. We sell this at a greater premium than a normal maintenance contract. And we actually do less work because we have e-visits, right? So we do it through connectivity. So less visits, less time on the road for the technicians, and the customer's willing to pay more for it because they value green solutions. So these things that we're trying to drive, as well as in our new installation products, we can now sell, in most of our platforms in ES1, an A-class efficiency rating. Not all of them, but vast majority of them. And it's our choice whether we can sell that to the customer. And we really have to push this as a sales organisation to make our contribution to the planet. So that's it on the priorities. Hopefully there's a lot to digest there. We're going to have an exam at the end of this town hall. Just kidding. But just encourage you to try and remember some of this, right? Because it's important to drive your actions to make sure that you're aligned with what the company is trying to achieve. So now I'm going to touch a little bit on safety. How many people have actually seen what we call the safety pyramid here? Is many people familiar with it? A few? Okay. So what we look at here are unsafe events, minor injuries, serious injuries, and then fatalities. And the theory is that each time you go up the pyramid, it's about a ratio of 10 to 1. So if you have one fatality, then you would have 10 serious injuries. 10 serious injuries should lead to 100 serious near misses. 100 serious near misses would lead to 1,000 minor injuries, right? And that's the theory. Now, it's a theory. The interesting thing that we saw when we looked through the data in Schindler, right? And people would think the more minor injuries and serious near misses and injuries that you have, the more fatalities you would have, right? That would be the logical outcome. Actually, the Schindler data showed us exactly the opposite. The countries where we had the most fatalities had the lowest number of reported injuries, the lowest number of near misses reported. So what does this say, right? This says that we're not learning as an organisation around safety because maybe we're not reporting everything that we should be reporting, right? When we report things, people investigate, they try and find ways to improve, we learn from these incidents, and when you learn from incidents, you prevent accidents happening. But when you don't report them, you can't learn. You can't work on the things that make the organisation more safe. And I just showed you, and you won't be able to read the data here, but I've compared the current safety pyramid here in India to one in Australia. Australia has a pretty robust reporting culture. It's driven by different things. It's actually driven by a workers' compensation scheme that if you don't report, you can't claim. Right? So there's an imperative upon the technicians to report everything. So that helps, right? But you see here in the Australian data, 10 minor injuries this year, 5 serious near misses, and 7 injuries over a population of 1,300 employees. We look here in India, 5,000 employees. We've had 3 minor injuries reported, no serious near misses, and only 1 injury. So I think there's an opportunity here, and I encourage you all to make sure that you get transparency around your safety reporting. Encourage people to report their accidents, encourage people to report their near misses. When you do that, you begin to learn. And it's not about punishing people or trying to hit people or scolding them for having an accident. It's about understanding what happened and how we can learn and how we can prevent it in the future. And that's the culture that we need. And if you get that culture of openness, people sharing information, people having a willingness to understand why things went wrong without blaming people, then you start to build a positive safety culture. And when you have that positive safety culture, then you can actually start to prevent fatalities. So this is what we're trying to strive for in the organisation. So really reach out, encourage people to report. When you report, learn from it, don't blame. And when you learn from it, you can actually work on ways to prevent accidents happening in the future. I wanted to share with you now a little bit of the results from beginning with an order intake perspective. So you can see here in the red column is year-to-date last year, and in the grey column is year-to-date this year. So it's up to April. And you can see overall we have a little bit of a gap to where we were last year. Now this has actually been reflected all around the Schindler world today. We actually have a gap at group level. And we want to work on this to see how do we actually close that gap. So why is this important, right? Because if we don't get the volume through the factories, and it really changes the economics of that factory. So not only do you have unproductive hours, your costs go up because your volumes are lower. So it's really important that we get volumes through the factory. And so our gap this year is around, I think, 30 million, thereabouts, year to date. See, Australia has done a little bit better. India, a little worse than last year, not too bad, I'd have to say. But if we talk about the Indian perspective, you're working in a growing market, right? So we have to work better at maintaining that price level that we got and also improving volume, right? Because we're not quite there. Last couple of months have been better, but I still think there's more opportunity for us to do better there. JSG is driving most of our gap. They have some real challenges. Most of it's related to timing of major projects, but they're also down in their volume business, so we have to work on that. New Zealand and Korea, very small contributors, but also both of them doing worse than last year. So the message is let's make sure that we don't give up on price. That's the key issue, right? But what can we do to make sure that we get better volume? And you say, well, how do we do that? Right? You do that with better value propositions for your customers, about understanding what's important to the customer, making sure we meet those needs, and then hopefully we can provide a better proposition than our competitors, so therefore we don't have to give away all the good efforts that we've done on price. So I'm sure Vincent and his NI team will be working with all your RVPs and the branch managers. We have to get that volume up a little bit more. Okay, so when we look at portfolio, if we look at losses, and this is just looking here specifically in the India context, so year to date, you see there's an increase in our losses, so we are getting up. So 50% of our losses in Zone Asia Pacific actually come from India, but you have a huge portfolio, so that's not unexpected. You have, I think soon we'll be celebrating hopefully 100,000 units. And you've done a great job here in India compared to competition. I think in terms of your portfolio growth, you've done better than the other big companies here in Otis and Kone and Johnson. So we've done well, but we want to do much better, right? We have, I think, something like 10,000 units sitting what we call passives. So these are contracts that come out of their contractual cycle, and they sit there and the customer doesn't tell us what they do. We don't know. And we have to work hard at that passive, getting that number down, because that's a huge opportunity for us, right? 10,000 units potentially for us to help grow our portfolio. If we can get that passive market back working and buying Schindler, we can actually help grow our portfolio. But the other element is making sure that we stop losses, right? So who will want to volunteer what they think is the main driver of losses in our portfolio around the Schindler globe? Does anyone want to think what it is? Do you think it's price? Do you think it's reliability? Actually, the number one issue is communication. As an organisation, we don't communicate successfully enough with our customers so they actually feel like they're getting value from Schindler, right? And when they feel like they're not getting value from Schindler, then they'll look elsewhere. So communicating clearly, regularly, and keeping the customer updated is really critical if we want to stop losses. So that's what we can do, right? It's really about that communication. The second part is making sure we fulfill successfully. So when the customer expects us to turn up, we turn up, right? People often say to get customer excellence, you have to start with fulfillment excellence, right? We deliver on our promise. This is very, very important also. And the third biggest reason is actually reliability and making sure we reduce the number of breakdowns that we have and improve our MTBC. Now, in India, we have a bit of a challenge at the moment. Again, I think there's been some reporting issues that we've cleaned up. But the reality is the MTBC for the Indian portfolio is sitting around 230 days, I think, something like that. For a portfolio that is predominantly 3,300 and 3,100, we should be able to do much better than that, right? So let's make sure we also work on that reliability piece. Then final issue on the financials is around our management result. So as we knew, as I mentioned earlier, 2022 was a difficult year, and this year we are doing better. So we're, I think, in Zone Asia Pacific, up around 7 or 8 million at MR level compared to 2022. But our performance has been a little bit varied. So Oz has their issues, but they're running very similar to last year. India, we've had a slow start, right? But I can actually see the potential here in the business. We've had some headwinds with the NIDEC issue, supply chain challenges, all these things that have stopped us getting to the prize, and the prize is making sure we get our NI business running smoothly and we get our completions done, and we get our handovers done to the customer. If we can get that right, we're confident that this gap will close. So we're promising that we'll have a strong Q2. Ash? And that we also see that in Q3, Q4, we should be able to continue on that trajectory now that we seem to have hopefully dealt with most of these headwinds. The NIDEC issue, we understand how to deal with it. We have a solution in hand. So this should again help us start to get these completions going, which is really critical to driving the business here in India. JSG have actually continued to do well. They've also had headwinds, but they've been able to manage them in a good way and improve their profitability. New Zealand, slightly worse than last year, so they still have some issues around NI. And you can see here Korea hardly makes a blip. So they've run at a loss for many, many years in Korea. And this year, I think for the first year, we're actually getting into the black. So finally seeing some hopes of producing it profitably, but it makes almost zero impact to the AP result. So, you know, we're happy that we've produced more profitability than last year, but I'm not happy that we haven't realised our potential. I think this business has a lot more ability to produce better profitability in Q2, Q3, Q4 as we dealt with the headwinds that slowed us down already. So let's keep working on that one. And I want to touch on just 3 areas that I think are really important for KG India. Some of them I've already mentioned, but it's worth reiterating. So the first one of those is around our safety and quality compliance culture. Right? We cannot afford to get another yellow or red audit in this KG. Right? I think this has to be absolutely clear to everyone. That this is our job. Our job is to make sure that we look after our customers who use elevators. We do that by making sure that our product's safe. Our job is to make sure that our employees are safe working for Schindler. Right? And again, we do that by making sure people understand the processes and they follow them. So it's not negotiable, right? If we don't do it, we're not doing our job. And hopefully that is clear to everybody, right? We get paid to deliver on product safety. We get paid to deliver on employee safety. It's not something special. It's our job. And when people treat it as our job and they treat it with a passion and something that they believe in, then you can create that compliance culture for the business. So please, let's make sure we deliver on that one. The second one is the pricing and efficiency action. So I think fantastic job on pricing. I think, as we said before, absolutely big tick on that one. But where we have scope is on efficiency, right? So both NI, EI and MOD. I'm really pleased to hear that you're actually working on your one-man installations. I think it's the SMILE program, and we call it. And this is actually the biggest lever that I think you have is starting on your one-man installations. We did them all around the world, right? Probably the only countries that don't are JSG and also India, but India is now changing, and hopefully you can act as a good incentive for JSG to finally give them a kick up the butt and they can actually start to work on it too. So we're using them to sort of say, well, listen, India's doing it, why can't you, JSG? But I think single man installations is a big part of this. But also just don't forget the basics behind NI efficiency, right? So is your site ready, right? Nothing worse if the site's not ready. Are the resources there? Are the material there? Are the tooling there? If any of those things are missing, you'll never deliver on efficiency, right? So the fundamentals are very, very important. So please make sure that they're in place for NI and MOD as well. On EI, it's about trying to leverage connectivity, reduce the MTBC. I think this is the biggest chore of your efficiency at the moment, getting that working on, and also working on our material costs. And again, I think almost one of the BDPs here in the Schindler world is what you do here, materials. And repairing materials, I think, is a great thing to do. Not only, one, does it help save costs, but think about it from a sustainability perspective, right? Every time you throw out a part, where does it go, right? But if we can repair it and reuse it, it works for the economy as well. And then the final one is about portfolio growth, right? So we talked about reducing losses, taking advantage of that huge passive unit base that we have, right, and making sure that we convert. And if we can do that, we can get that portfolio growth that we need to deliver. So don't wait, right? So why not now work on the issues around compliance and quality and safety? Why not now work on pricing and efficiency? And why not now make sure that we work on that portfolio growth? These are the things that will really make the KG India incredibly successful. So that's all I've got. I'll hand back to Ash.
थैंक यू रॉब, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दैट. तो आप सब लोग सुन रहे होंगे रॉब को अभी पिछले 30 मिनट से बोल रहे थे हमारे प्रायोरिटीज़ के बारे में. तो ये पूरा जो भी उन्होंने बोला है उसका एक समरी में बताऊंगा आपको. जो मेन स्लाइड था अबाउट द की फोकस एरियाज फॉर इंडिया, 3 चीज़ें उन्होंने बोला है. पहला चीज़ है सेफ्टी और क्वालिटी कंप्लायंस. इफ़ यू थिंक अबाउट इट इन अ सिंपल वे, इट्स अबाउट एवरी डे व्हेन यू गो टू वर्क. अगर आप सेल्स में हो, इंस्टॉलेशन में हो, प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट में हो, सर्विसिंग, ग्रुप लीडर, हमारा काम का एक प्रोसेस है, उसका हमको कंप्लाई करना है. इसी के लिए हमको पैसे मिलता है. यू नो, वी टर्न अप टू डू आवर जॉब एंड वी गो बैक होम सेफ एवरी डे, एंड फॉर दिस वी गेट पेड. तो ये बहुत ही सिंपल चीज दिमाग में लग रहा है, पर सम रीजन हम इस पे ध्यान नहीं दे रहे हैं. फोकस हमेशा इंसेंटिव और बोनस और सैलरी के ऊपर जाता है. बट दैट, यू नो, वी शुड डू इट बाय डूइंग द राइट थिंग. सो दैट्स द फर्स्ट थिंग, that we need to make sure we follow the compliance culture in safety and quality. I will include one more thing in that. That will come from proper planning. और हम अभी उसको बुलाते हैं governance, corporate governance. Sandhya and the RVPs and branch managers, they are all driving now a proper meeting structure. हर एक business के लिए कौन सा meetings होना चाहिए, उसका agenda क्या होना चाहिए, minutes क्या होना चाहिए. This is very important. Even for an FT or a custom engineer, you have to have a daily, weekly, monthly plan. Just comply to that, then you will be able to figure out कि कहाँ पे time waste हो रहा है, and you can fix it. The second point that Rob has mentioned is pricing and efficiency. Again, like he said, thanks to the sales team, we have had a tremendous growth in pricing. I'm sure many of you will be asking in your mind कि सर ये सब अच्छा है कि प्राइस इंक्रीज किया बट वॉल्यूम गिर गया. I just want everyone to understand one thing. For many years we were running behind this goal of growth at all cost. And today we see the impact of that. We have grown, but we are not profitable. Or profitability and growth is not a binary choice. दोनों चाहिए, क्योंकि जब आप profit बनाते हो, then you can grow. And if you grow, you can make profit. So it is a continuous loop of a cycle, which we can only drive by improving not only pricing, but being more efficient and effective. जो भी FT लोग ये सुन रहे हैं, आपको पता है कि जितना काम आप आज कर रहे हो, you can do easily double of that. Easily. I'm not even going beyond that. The mandate today for us is कि हर एक FT 9 completions, right Deepak? At least. Again, minimum we're talking about. I think there are people doing 15 आराम से. हमको मालूम है बहुत सारे branches में ये हो रहा है. So that is the simplest thing for NI. EI, again, we are not reporting the hours. Under absorption both in NI and EI is a big problem. So my humble request is efficiency actions have to be driven. बहुत सारे पैसे बचा है वहाँ पे. And I keep telling people that when we get those efficiency action and we put the money in profit, it will come back to all of us in terms of better incentive, better bonus, better promotion, better salary. The last action he's mentioned is about portfolio growth. This year, हमारा 1 lakh elevators and maintenance होने वाला है. And this is a big milestone. We are the only company in India, organically, हमने एक भी company acquire नहीं किया है. It's a pure Schindler installation of 1 lakh. And I think it's the fastest grown organic elevator company because of all of you. So that is something we should protect. ये हमारा बच्चा है, तो हमको पता है कि उसको कैसे देखभाल करना है. These are 3 main actions Rob mentioned. Additionally, I mentioned about planning, which all of you know is very, very important. And of course, I would like to include इसमें profitability as well. focusing on collections. अभी आप सब लोग सोच रहे होंगे कि सर ये सब बहुत बड़े बड़े बात रॉब सर बोल रहे थे, स्ट्रैटेजी दिखा रहे थे, तो इसमें मेरा क्या लेना देना है? I just want all of us to think about जो मकसद वो बोल रहे थे. हर इंसान दुनिया में उसको एक मकसद चाहिए. Why do we come to work every day? I often use this example and I will repeat it again. If you think that, oh, I'm just a salesperson, आज भी जाके I have to sell 3 more units, 10 more units, 20 more units. I'm just an FT. Again, I have to go to site, install an elevator. Or I'm just a customer engineer. I have to go and do another CPSI today. Please remember, it is not just. What is the purpose Rob spoke about is how we elevate the urban life quality. Today, every person uses an elevator without even thinking. Nobody, wakes up in the morning and say, you know what? Today I'm going to take an elevator. No. It's a simple act. So how do we make that as simple as that? हम कैसे सुबह उठ के ऐसे सोचना चाहिए कि आज जो भी काम मैं कर रहा हूं उसके लिए मुझे ये दिमाग में रखना है कि कोई भी मेरा एलिवेटर यूज कर रहा है, they should not even feel they are using an elevator. That is our job. That gives a purpose. जो मकसद चाहिए हमको वो वहां से मिलता है. That is why Rob spoke a lot about strategy. The good news is India strategy is aligned exactly to this. I will release it another day. Today we have already seen a lot of information, a lot of things in your mind. And I want to take this opportunity to convey to all of you, last month we closed the salary cycle and the bonus cycle. And I'm very, very proud to say that most of the feedback we've received is very positive. In spite of a very challenging year, 2022 बहुत ही मुश्किल साल था. In spite of that, we have given above market salary increase. And for that, on behalf of Team India, I want to thank the AP team and the group for supporting us and believing in Schindler India. Schindler India एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण केजी है ग्रुप के लिए. उसी की वजह से हमको सपोर्ट किया. जब आपको मालूम है, पेपर में आप पढ़ रहे होंगे, कल भी मैं शैलेश को दिखा रहा था, 20,000 जॉब कोई आईटी कंपनी ने निकाला है. Startups are struggling, lot of IT companies are firing people. Schindler India is still recruiting people. अब इसमें बहुत सारे लोग भी होंगे, you will be thinking, अरे, I didn't get enough increase. I didn't get the promotion. Of course, 100% is not always possible. But my suggestion to you is, please don't compare what somebody else got. Just compare to what you have got last year and this year. And ask your managers, what do I have to do agle saal next year? How can I get a better increase? How can I get a promotion? And work on that. If you start comparing with your colleagues, trust me, आपका life बहुत ही मुश्किल होगा. You will be in perennial depression. Because somebody in the world is going to do better than you. And if your life is about comparing with others, आपको कभी भी peace नहीं मिलेगा, शांति नहीं मिलेगा, खुशी नहीं मिलेगा. With that thought, I want to close. I want to, in fact, thank the HR team for a great work we did in the salary and bonuses and all the amazing results. Overall, India is on the right track. We are looking towards improving month on month. आपके वजह से. So on behalf of management team, I want to say thanks to all of you and to give you all a big round of applause. There are a lot of things that all of you are doing every day. There's only gratitude and love from me and my team to all of you. We know things are not easy. Every month there is a surprise. Last month we had the machine gap issue, air brake. But we are working on things, we are not sitting and doing nothing. We are trying as much as possible to give you all a better quality of life every day. But in turn, let's keep the focus, the key actions that Rob has said. उसके ऊपर हम काम करेंगे and let us show कि ये साल, this year is a year of India. In that graph you saw, many areas India is not there. And I think on behalf of you, I can commit to the team, we will be ahead of target in all areas. We will make ourselves proud. First, जब दिसंबर में क्लोजिंग होगा तो गर्व के साथ हम घर जा सकते हैं कि we have achieved what we set out. And I am very confident that this team will deliver. Thank you so much. We will now open for questions to Rob or AP team or to myself. Satyam, any questions? You're sending it in WhatsApp? You'll send it to me here? Before that, anybody here has a question? Come on. I know you have a lot of questions. Hopefully, I've addressed the elephant in the room, which is usually salary, bonus, promotions. That's why I spoke about it. Because most people, that's our focus in our head. Anyone here before we take questions from the branches? Okay. Yeah.
Hello. Previously, Sir spoke about the shifting towards the modular products. But today in India, we see that most of the market is covered with small builders and who require customized products, and because of which Schindler is also losing on leads because of that.
I don't think so, Vincent, right? I think most of the products sold in India are simple commodity, 80-85%. Maybe Vincent, if you have a better answer, you can answer him as well, but I'm pretty sure that is a fact.
So there is always a requirement of customization in a very small percentage of units. But when you analyze your wins or even your losses, you will find that what we talk about, the basic commodity elevator is the one which we need. And if we focus our energy towards that, I think you will have a better price point, you will have a better hit rate as well. And you will also have sometimes those unique one-off lifts which you'll have to let go because the effort, the price to cover that is always too high. Yeah?
Okay. I hope that answered your question. Thank you. It's still a hugely commodity market in India, and that is why we are doing really well in terms of the commodity side, but of course, the recent price challenges is always there. The next question is, where do we stand in cost versus price comparison vis-a-vis competition?
Well, yeah, I think. So if I go back to that comparison with Otis, right? So they're 10 percentage points better than us at profitability, which means they have a lower cost base, right? At the end of the day, as part of that, but they also maybe sell into more profitable markets. So we know we have some challenges around direct product cost. That's one issue. And this is when we went to the ES1 platform, our costs went up by about 30%. We want to bring that back down by getting back to the real commodity. And we also have challenges when it comes to efficiency. And this is why efficiency is also important, right? So we continue to work on these two levers. We can start to close some of the gap. Then the final one is, what are our processes like, right? In NI, for instance, so from sales to engineering, to supply chain, all those have maybe opportunities for us to improve and take our costs. So it's three elements. We have to work on all of them if we want to close the cost gap. So we're certainly working on direct product costs through the real commodity. We've talked about efficiency, and we're currently working on a big project where we're looking about how do we do things here in Schindler, and we can then benchmark against competition. And this will also give us some insights and opportunities to improve. But at the moment, the gap is about 10%, which is too much, and it becomes a competitive disadvantage to us. So we really have to work on it.
Rob, another question is dependency on China for higher capacity elevators for India right now.
This is a bit of an ongoing discussion that we're having with the corporate R&D. So as you know, we'll be introducing ES 5.1 and 5.2 into the future. You'll be getting this product, I think, beginning of 2024, thereabouts. It will be produced in China in the short term, right? And what we want to do is make sure we don't make the same mistake as we did with ES1 that we released in factories all around the world and it became very difficult to manage. So we want to make sure that we perfect the product line in Europe and China first, and then we'll take a view on India sometime in 2024, right, once the product is stabilised. And we've got to make sure that it makes sense from a cost perspective, right? So if there's a business case and the product is stable, then certainly we will take a look at doing 5.1 and 5.2 here in India, but we won't look at that until next year, to be very honest with you. We have to make sure ES1 and ES2 come out as stable products that we can deliver through the supply chain in the short term.
What is the group doing in terms of AI automation?
We see this, well, you know, we think about what we're using today with bots in our SAP system. We're doing a lot of that. We're using a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So Vincent and the sales team are actually one of the leading examples of what we're able to do with machine learning. We're able now to actually predict what a win price would be on a rather large segment of the audience through machine learning. So this is how we're using artificial intelligence to improve. So we're also working on things in EI where we're working on systems that will predict, we call it a churn predictor. Right? What's the likelihood of you losing a portfolio contract because of the certain conditions and parameters around that contract? So we are looking at all this. I'm sure you've all heard about ChatGPT, and this is something that the company will look at, but we want to do it in a controlled way. So that's why we had to say stop, right? And let's think about how do we use tools like this in an intelligent way. So all these things are on the radar. We do lots of things with Power BI. So the ability to access information today and data is so much more easy for us, and then we have to use that in a way to make the right choices. But we will continue. This is a quickly evolving space. And certainly as AI evolves, hopefully in a good way, we will utilise that moving forward.
Great, thanks. The next one I can answer. When as a group we spoke about being a preferred employer of choice, what are our steps to retain employees, as we have seen many employees being replaced by expensive alternates, but the efforts to retain is not up to mark. You know, first of all, I want to put things in perspective that right now the attrition in India, Schindler, is less than 15%. And if you look at the market, it's much below market. The problem is it's a bit of the herd mentality, you know. I'm sure many of you are used to the WhatsApp groups in your societies. Have you seen what happens there? Right? One person complains and everybody starts joining them, and it looks like there's a lot of problem in the building. So I think maybe some of us think that we are having a huge attrition, and we used to in the management think the same. And recently Shailesh was showing us data saying that, Ashok, I think we are just overthinking this. Yes, we have people leaving. It's a high growth country. There are lots of opportunities for good people. And like what Rob was telling me this morning, we have very, very good people at many places, so they have high expectations. And a lot of times we may not be able to immediately provide that to everyone, those who are high performers. And like any good family, you know, one of my goals has always been creating an army of leaders for not just for Schindler, but for making the corporate India a better corporate India. And we are very proud that some of them have taken up CEO roles in other organizations, doing a great job. So I don't think we need to worry so much about it. But at the same time, retaining good employees is not just a one-stop action of giving a higher salary immediately when they resign. It's about my manager. Like how most of the portfolio losses happens because of communication. Employee loss also happens because of communication from their immediate manager. How many managers here know how your current employees feel? Are they happy, unhappy? Are they going to remain? Are they going to leave? This is a question I want each one of the managers here to think about. And that is how we can retain. Retaining is not just about giving just more money. It's about giving them a great working life, opportunities, so that they can enjoy their work. I hope that answered the question. Next one, Rob, is a bit controversial, but I think it's important to take it. Why specific reservation for women? Gender equality is not only about providing women reservation. We should have a gender neutral policy which will result in gender equality. Today, if we talk about our organization, we need not provide reservation, we must start providing equal opportunity. I have an answer as well, but I would like to hear you.
I think let's maybe talk about this, how we view this at the group, right? So the reality of our world is 51% of the population is female, right? 49% male. When we look at the representation within Schindler, we have, I think, about 86% male and 14% female.
India is even more lower.
So
it's 4%.
Sorry?
India is 4%.
4%, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking, so globally. But, so we have an issue, right? And we have to create, and this is not about, it's about creating an equity in where we work, and it's about creating inclusive environments. The outcome you get is gender diversity, right? But if you have an inclusive behaviours within your business and you create equity for all, then gender actually solves itself. So you can't solve your gender issues by favouring one gender over the other. That is a mistake, right? And this is not the way that we view it, right? We view it about trying to, as I said, become more inclusive as an employer and creating equity for all. It's not just an gender issue. This could be a religious issue. It could be sexuality. It can be nationality. All these issues that we have to deal with to make sure we provide equity. So, do we set ourselves goals? We do, right? Because when you only have 14% women in the business, we have to be better because we're missing out on a huge talent pool. We don't apologise for that, right? We don't. And do we apologise for promoting women into leadership roles? No, we don't, right? Because again, we're much underrepresented, right? So I think we should view it from the fact that maybe the men have been dealt such a good hand for many, many years. We're just trying to create better equity. That's what we're doing as an organisation. And we won't move away from that. The resolve is very, very firm.
And I think I want to tell that if there is a vacancy and if there are two candidates, there is no preference for the female candidate if she is not good. And this is something Rob has always told me, right? The decision is not on gender, it's on merit. No company is stupid enough to put people just to promote a particular section at the cost of the business not doing well. End of the day, shareholders need return in the investments they've made. And I'm sure that is what at least is the policy and the ethos we have. And I would like to use this medium to communicate to all the hiring managers to follow this to the word. We won't choose anyone because of their gender, but it will be by merit. And I think it's a disservice to the female population if they are told that, hey, you're a female, so you got the job. No. But let me tell you that recently I was talking to a HR person in Schindler, and that person told me that there is still a lot of lip service in Schindler about gender diversity. In real, the men, I'm included as well, how much do we really want female to be with us in the organization? You know the answer. Think about it. Are you still having unwanted comments? Or such kind of conversations, hey, you're a female, so you got into the company. You're a female, so you got into management. You're a female, you got into SCDP. I hear this. I'm still hearing all these things. And it's been 5 years I've been talking about this. We need a goal because only then we can work towards something. And we have no shame to say we have a goal. And we will continue having a goal. But nobody will not get a promotion or a job because of being male or female. That is clear. I think on that note, we have to stop. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of questions coming through. I will try and reply myself to all of you. But thanks again to listening to all of us here. And once again, let's make it a rocking end of month for May. Right? We can do it? Yes. Thank you. Thank you all.